At the end of the presentation, if somebody want to come and appreciate me regarding this presentation, hey Himas, you have done a great job, right? You did a great job, right? So if anybody come and tell me, Himas, you did a great job, so if somebody come and tell me, that person should clearly understand what I'm saying in this presentation, right? And if somebody asks from me, hey Himas, can you please tell me what is defect tracking? And if I am saying defect tracking, I don't know much. I simply got this idea from the Google. So that's the thing here. So I don't. So this is humble request. So what I am suggesting is, please try to understand what I am telling, and if you have any doubts, please ask for me, and I try to explain my level best, right? So, the quality assurance generally include defect tracking, unit testing, source code testing, technical reviews, integration testing, and system testing. Right? Software testing, so quality assurance. This is I am talking about quality assurance. Right? Quality assurance generally include defect tracking, unit testing, source code testing, technical reviews, integration testing, and system testing. So out of these activities, unit testing, source code tracing, integration testing are informed left to the developers. So software quality assurance. So in the software quality assurance, the testing is playing a huge role. So for this testing, not only the testing is responsible for the specialized testing team, as well as the developers also responsible for this testing. In a small, they also have a small responsibility. If we are as a company, if we are releasing a project, so at the end, the specialized testing team, they have the they should responsible for at least more than 90%, but at least 10% the developers also responsible for this testing because of this unit testing and integration testing. So out of these activities, unit testing, source code tracing, and integration testing are informed left to developer. So we'll see. So if I can suggest you during this explanation, there are two ways. I can suggest you two ways. You can simply block me and ask questions, right? The other thing is, at the end of this presentation, you can simply ask all my questions. So I choose, I think, at the end of the presentation, asking question is, I think, is the very best, right? So I think you will agree with me. So basically, in the example, as I said earlier, we allocate 5 developers to the 5 developers, right? So those 5 developers, they develop those units. Those developers develop those units by themselves, and in this development, they are mainly focusing on each functions and methods what are already mentioned in the SRS. So whatever the documents they are using, they are gathering knowledge in order to build these projects, right? So in this situation, in this unit testing, mainly test cases, and the QA perspective, I am not talking about the technical part. I am talking about not the technical part. So in this case, developers test cases should be written by developers in order to assure whether their developed unit is actually matched to the exact requirement. Matched to the exact requirement, right? And basically, I already mentioned the goal of this unit testing during my speech, and again I am telling the goal of this unit testing means each developers what they are doing is they are isolating their parts, right? They are isolating their parts. Let's say, for example, Nivasan developing his part, Oshan developing his unit, and Lahir developing his unit, Sukesh developing her unit, right? So what they are doing is basically they are isolating their parts. And isolating the parts, and Nivasan come up with his own unit test cases for his part, and Oshan come up with his own test cases for his part, and Sukeshini come up with her own test cases for her part, right? So, and what the goals mean? They isolated their part, and during the testing they ensure their part is basically the developed unit is basically met with the requirement of So that's the goal of the unit testing. So now we'll talk about the benefits of the unit testing. Basically you guys can see there are three advantages, three benefits I have listed in this my presentation slides. First one is find problems early. Find problems early. The second one is facilitate changes. The third one is simplifies integration. So find problems early. So I think that is everybody can understand what does it mean. Finding problems early mean. So unit testing is the start of the testing, right? So in the unit testing, if the developer developed his unit and he is properly conducted the testing, he thoroughly if he conducted the testing thoroughly and if he did his job perfectly, then he can find problems early in the stage. So, but he need to do, right? But he need to do this testing at the early level. If he didn't do this unit testing, he can't ensure whether his unit is actually meet with the specification. So find problems early mean developers can, if they conducted unit testing in the early, they can observe defects. So it's a company perspective, for the releasing perspective, for the project releasing perspective, it's an advantage in the unit testing, right? The second one is facilitate changes. So facilitate changes means allow programmers to refactor the code at a latest rate. Allow programmer to refactor the code at a later rate. I put in the bracket inside regression testing. Right? And again it's explained, right? Test cases, functions and methods, then whenever a change causes fault, it can be quickly identified and fixed. So simply what does it mean is, facilitate changes mean, let's say, we have done system testing, right? So, and another thing I want to tell you, I prepared these slides. I prepared these slides with my experience under Google. I used the knowledge from the Google, and I have already mentioned the source, the top bottom of this slide, in tutorials.com or something. So it's my responsibility to tell that fact also, right? So facilitate changes means, for example, we have the testing team completed their system testing, right? And they found several bugs, they found several defects, and they reported, and they are going to report, and they are reporting those defects to the development department, right? So at that time, if once the developers fix those defects, it's come to regression testing, right? We are going to again retest those defects. Right? So retest those defects also including regression testing, and the regression testing and also regression testing include the change request, the client change request, and also it includes this regression testing. So what I am talking now, let's say for example, 5 defects fixed by developers, right? So in that stage, if we are reporting again, if we are reporting defects in the regression testing, right? If we are reporting defects in the regression testing, if the developer done his unit testing properly, I don't know the standards of the development, because since I am the QA guy, if they properly follow the development coding standards, I think. I assume what this is saying, if I suddenly raise a bug, let's say this is a huge project, right? So Nivasan's component is also huge, the component weight is huge, right? Component weight Oshan's part also huge. So if I suddenly raise a defect, if the Nivasan properly did his part, unit testing, I think if he already wrote those unit test cases, and match with the functions, those unit cases should be matched with the functions, right? Functions and methods in his code. So if I raise a bug, he can simply match with these unit test cases and he can easily find where this bug's gonna be impact my code, and he can easily find, right? Can easily find, and he can do the proper change. So that's why this is saying facilitated changes. So if you guys have another idea for these facilitated changes, please ask at the end of the presentation. So I have these kind of ideas, so we can communicate at the later level, right? So the third one is simplifies integration. So simplifies integration reduces uncertainty in the unit themselves, and integration has become much easier. Simplifies integration means, so simplifies integration reduces uncertainty in the unit themselves. So when it's come to the integration, if they have done their unit test cases properly, match with the requirement, and if the developer done their unit testing properly, when it's come to integration, this is very easy. We can easily integrate themselves. We can easily integrate those units altogether, right? So that's what simplifies integration. So integration tests become much easier. Integration tests become much easier. There are two types of integration tests: bottom-up integration and top-down integration, right? Bottom-up and top-down. So when I'm when I'm going to speak about integration, you guys can easily understand what this integration test become much easier, right? So now we'll have a look about the limitations of unit testing, right? Limitation of unit testing. Basically, what does it mean is, limitations of unit testing means testing cannot catch each and every bug in an application. Testing cannot catch each and every bug in an application. It is impossible to evaluate every execution path in every software application. The same is the case with unit testing. So basically here he is saying what does mean testing cannot catch each and every bug in an application. Is saying for the specialized testing team. Testing team cannot catch each and every bug in an application. Right? Testing team cannot catch each and every bug in an application. And at the later saying the same is the case with unit testing. So specialized testing team also can't find each and every bug. Since the specialized testing team also can't find each and every bug, how developers gonna found every bug? So that's the question. What does it mean, right? So simply, limitations of unit testing mean at the end of this unit testing, developers can't found each and every bug. There are limitations. They have come up with their own test cases. So, for example, Nivasan have a unit. For that unit, there are some specific requirements. Oshan have a specific unit. There are some specialized requirements for his unit. So, what he is doing is, with the project timeline, he is preparing his own test cases with related to those requirements, exact requirements, and he's doing his coding, right? So that's the end of the unit testing, right? Now integration testing. Integration testing is combining parts of an application. Combining parts of an application means combining units of an application. Combining units of an application means Nivasan has done his unit testing and his unit. Oshan has done his unit. Sukesh has done unit. So all those components are integrated together mean integration testing. So integration testing basically you can divide into two types: bottom-up integration and top-down integration. So most of the companies means in a comprehensive software development environment, bottom-up testing is usually done first. So out of these two types of integration testing, bottom-up integration and top-down integration. So comprehensive software development in a comprehensive software development environment, they use normally what? Bottom-up integration. Simply bottom-up integration means, now I'll try to simplify these things. As I said earlier in the example, Nivasan developed his unit, right? Oshan developing his unit. Sukesh is developing her unit, Lahir developing his unit, right? So there are 4 units. So when it comes to integrations, we normally prioritize those units. Sometimes Nivasan developing the number 1 priority, high priority unit. Oshan maybe developing less priority unit. So we can prioritize 1 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1 is sometimes it's a high priority unit. 5 is less priority. We can number it other way around also. 1 is less priority, 5 is high priority. Right? So we have prioritized those units and combining them together means it's basically done in the unit integration testing. But in the bottom-up integration means so those prioritized out of those prioritized units, first we are taking the less priority unit. First we are taking the less priority unit, and we progressively combine high priority units together. You guys understood, right? Understood. So that's what bottom-up integration. So the top-down integration means out of those prioritized units, we are taking the high priority unit first, and progressively we are combining less priority units to the high priority units. So that's what bottom-up integration and top-down integration. So in a comprehensive software development environment, bottom-up testing is usually done first. So I think now question. So in a comprehensive software development, we are going to do only bottom-up integration. It's a question, right? So the answer is we are doing bottom-up integration followed by top-down integration. We have to do first integration and we have to do next top-down integration. Right? So that's all about integration testing. Now we'll have a look about system testing. System testing means simply test the system as a whole. Now the specialist team, they are doing their job in this part, system testing, right? Test the system as a whole. Once these are coming in order, right? First unit testing, then integration testing, then system testing. So system testing means simply once all the components are integrated, that means integration testing done, the application as a whole is tested vigorously to that it meet quality standards. So vigorously means again tester's responsibility is to anyway somehow break the system. Right? So vigorously test the vigorously to see that it meets quality standards. We are testing the system whole together. Means simply system testing. So this system testing also we have to go through the requirement documents, analyze the requirement documents, and need to design proper test cases, and those test cases should be have all the requirement areas, and we have to execute all those test cases, and we need to execute those test cases in a vigorous way, right? Means anyway we have to break the system. If the tester can't break the system, no point of testing. If the tester can't found at least I can't say one bar, he need to somehow his job is to find bugs. So now So in system testing, this system testing is performed by a specialized testing team. That means to conduct system testing for a particular company, there should be a specialized testing team. Developers can't do system testing. So in the meantime, testers can't do unit testing. In my perspective, right? So now we'll have importance of system testing. I already told those importance in my explanation. Again, I will go through this one by one importance. But this importance of system testing, first one is this is the first step in software development life cycle where the application is tested as a whole. It's one importance of the system testing. Application is tested as a whole first time in the software development lifecycle. Earlier in the unit testing we tested those in component, unit wise. In integration we combine those units together. So after combine those together, when this released to QA environment, this is a whole project, this is a final project. This is what we are going to deliver to the client, right? So that's what it means. First step is a software development life cycle where the application is tested as a whole, right? The second one is application is tested thoroughly to verify that it meets the functional and technical specification. In the system testing, why we are doing system testing is to verify that it meets the functional and technical specification. In testing, there are two types of words: verification and validation. So simply verification means we are go through the requirement documents, UI documents, and all the other technical specifications. We are go through the requirement document. We are preparing test cases. Once the SR is finalized, SR is handed over to the development department as well as handed over to the testing department. So while developers coding, what testers are doing is testers are developing test cases. Testers are developing test cases. After developing these test cases, we are developing test cases documents. For example, software requirement specification. After develop these test cases, we in some companies doing walkthrough sessions, right? Walkthrough sessions. We need to actually we should develop about what we are going to test, right? We need to test what client wants, not we want, right? We want to test what client wants. So we have to do a walkthrough session in front of BA, business analyst, and in some case client and management. So during that walkthrough session, they are checking this testing people are going. They'll click the you said enter. So that's what validation means simply, right? So the application is tested in an environment which is very close to the production environment where the application is deployed. System testing is more similar to the production environment because we are going to release things. We are going to if defects going to become, if defects not, the tester can't observe defects in system testing. So that's the product we are going to deliver to the client, right? So that's what we are saying. Production environment where in an environment which is very close to the production environment. System testing environment is a type of environment which is very close to the production environment where application is deployed. The other one is system testing enables us to test, verify and validate both the business requirement as well as the application architecture. So this sentence including verification, validation, both parts. But verification, verify. System testing enables us to test, verify. Verify mean we are verifying test cases and test bits mean verification, right? And validate. Validate mean system testing after done the coding, when the coding is completed by the developers, we are going to validate those, executing those test cases, right? So both the business requirement as well as the application. Both the business requirement matching with the verification as well as the application architecture mean this is going to match with the validation. Right? So now we'll have a look regarding the regression testing. Regression testing means whenever a change in software application is made, it is quite possible that the other areas within the application have been affected by this change. So regression testing basically we are doing for defect retesting and change requests. When the system testing completed, sometimes during system testing, developers are observing defects, right? So those observed defects once raised to the developers, they are going to fix, right? They fix and again they resubmit to testers to retest. So that type of testing is also called regression testing. And also So let's say the regression testing or system testing, another change request coming from the client. I told in the requirement gathering session, I told you this was on, and again he commented, I did a small change in this part. So that's a change request. So when the change request comes, we need to do the regression testing for that. So regression testing includes defect retesting as well, change request, code changes. So that's what regression testing, right? To verify that a fixed bug has resulted in another functionality of business rule violation is regression testing. So what does it mean is, during the regression testing, let's say we raise 5 defects, for example, assume 2 defects. During the system testing, developers raise 2 defects, and anyway, development team, one person going to fix those defects, right? So after fix these defects, once they resubmit to retest, our tester's responsibility is to test not only those 2 defects, not only those 2 defects, they have to test around if these changes going to be impact the rest of the application, or early codes are going to be impacted by this change. So those kind of testing we have to thoroughly focus, right? So that's what he is saying, resulted in another functionality of business rule violation is regression testing. The intent of regression testing is to ensure that a change such as a bug fix didn't result in another fault being uncovered in the application. Right? Change. That a change such as a bug fix didn't result in another fault being uncovered in the application. That means developer doing a fix. We are ensuring this defect, and in future maybe another defects maybe come, right? So we are ensuring here also by doing regression testing, bug fix didn't result in another fault being uncovered in the application. Right. So now we'll have take a look in importance of regression testing. In importance of regression testing, the first one is minimize the gaps in testing when an application with changes made has to be tested. That means is not enough. Right. So minimize the gaps in testing when an application with changes made has to be tested. So let's say, minimize the gaps means during system testing sometimes testers also humans, right? So fault can be happen for the testers also. So in the system testing, sometimes they also missing. But when it comes to regression testing, those gaps are automatically covered. So that's what they minimize the gaps in the testing and application changes made has to be tested. The second importance is testing the new changes to verify that the change made didn't affect any other area of the application. So I mentioned earlier, right? I explained this earlier. So third one, mitigates risk when regression testing is performed on the application. So here, mitigates risk means, is it saying for this particular project, mitigate risk? Not only for the project, right? This mitigate risk including, let's say, if you are not doing regression testing, without doing regression testing, we are delivering the project to the client, right? Yeah, simply we have done the system testing and developers fix those defects, and they come and saying, I am very confident enough to release this project. So I think no need of doing regression testing. So in that case, if we release this project to the client and assume if any bugs come in the live side, their client side, what are the risks? Project is totally screwed up, right? Already project we can't talk about this project. Project is already made, right? So what are the other risks? Company reputation going down. If there are any pending payments, right? So those are the risk, mitigate risk when regression testing is performed on the application. Right? So the test coverage is increased without compromising the timeline. Test coverage is increased without compromising the timeline. So this compromising timeline means, I assume this is project timeline.
But compromising is without timeline, and you want, because you want to do a regression testing, you want to increase the timeline, or you have to because you don't have time, so you say, okay, normally a regression testing takes about 2 days, you say, okay, let's do it in half a day. That's compromising.
Yeah, I can agree with Padi. So here we'll see, we'll have test coverage is increased without compromising timelines. Right?
Or the other way around. You can't go beyond the timeline.
So for example, so there are, so project manager already planned this timeline, right? So in his timeline he allocated particular time to regression testing as well. So when this comes to regression testing, let's say huge defects are coming, lot of defects are coming, right? Lot of defects are coming. Total number of defects is very high. So in that case, test coverage is increased. We have to prepare test cases as well. Not the system testing test cases, additional test cases. We have to prepare additional test cases as well. And let's say we have to repeat we are fixing 5 defects, and developer fix those defects, and again those 5 defects reopen, and again we are fixing those 5 defects, and again out of those 5 defects 3 defects are reopened, and again test those 3 defects, again 1 defect is reopened. So taking too much of time, right? So as per my understand, so if we have proper automation tool, if the testing team has a proper automation tool, if the test coverage is increased, test coverage we can increase using the test cases. If the test cases is number of test cases is high, test coverage is high. So if the test coverage is high, if we are going to execute those test cases manually, and defects also come again and again defects also come, if you are going to execute those test cases manually, so that in that case it's compromising the timeline. In that case it's compromising the project timeline. But the advantage is without compromising the timeline. So without compromising the timeline, we need to use the automation tool. We need to increase the test coverage. Automatic test coverage is increasing. And we can't compromise in the project timeline also. So in that case, we have to use a tool. So 50 test cases, you assume, right? There are 50 test cases. Instead of going to execute those 50 test cases manually. If I click the play button in the automation tool, it's quickly gives the output within small time. So I think that's what I'm saying, right? So the other one is increased speed to market the product. Same things. That's the automation tool that done, I think, as per my understanding. So that's the end of this presentation. I tried my level best to make interested session. So thank you everyone for listening. Do you have any question? Please ask questions related to these topics. Please ask questions related to these topics.
Top pages, right? Early pages. Which section?
Now, you have been saying integration testing are informally left to the developers. This also.
Unit test.
Yeah, it's a good point.
What does it mean informal testing?
We already discussed that point. I also noted that word informal. Why this is not mentioned formally? It's saying informal. So, informally means, as per my understand, so most of the responsibility, testing, most of the responsibility is going to the testing department. But for a industry practice, this is my opinion, right? So this is my opinion. I can't tell the exact. I don't know. So in industry perspective, so here again, informal අපිට මේක ඇත්තට ගානක් අපිටත් මේක ෂේප් වෙන්න පුළුවන් එහෙම කියලා ෆෝමල් ඉන්ෆෝමල් කියලා right so එතකොට ටෙස්ටර්ස් වලට මේක රෙස්පොන්සිබල් නැද්ද අතෝ ටෙස්ටර්ස් කරන්න බැරිද මේ යුනිට් ටෙස්ටිං ඉන්ටිග්‍රේෂන් ටෙස්ටිං අපි ඩෙවලොපර්ස් ළම විතර so those are the questions right
I just want to know whether the source code testing won't be what you call facilitated by the testers. It won't be facilitated to.
No, source code testing also normally done by the developer. That's what functional test, white box testing, right?
Yeah. So in the industry level, the testers will facilitate the what you call source code testing as well.
Yeah, definitely.
No.
Yeah, white box testing, black box testing. Right, white box testing means tester go in deep, go to the code and he will test it. So that is white box test. In my career, I
think that's not how it happens. For my understanding, when a developer does a development, he does his testing. That's called the unit testing, right? Yoshan develop
you are talking about this informally.
Yeah, I'm coming to that, right? When he does something, he's doing a testing, that's called the unit testing. He knows what has he done, he checks with the SRS and does a testing, and then he passes to the team lead or QA or tech lead. He is the person who will be integrating that with the other components. At that point, he is the person who will check the source code, he is the person who is doing the integration. After the integration, he is the person who is checking whether those two components are working. Not the developer, the tech lead or the team lead. But it's still not in the QA department's review yet. After that, the tech lead or QA team lead will push it then to the QA team saying, okay, these 4 components are be done, these are the scenarios, this is the scope, this is the inputs, these are the outputs, test and let me know. Why there's a testing team and why the development team is done is, development team will test with their mindset and idea. Testing comes with a different purview. They look at the UI, everything, integration. You are doing login part, you are doing registration part. You are using light blue, he is using light blue with a white shade. You don't know the difference, But the QA team, when they integrate, they see there's a difference. Because you have not seen his component, you have not seen, other person has not seen your component. But when it's integrated, either at the tech or the team lead point of view, it has to be tracked. Otherwise, when it goes to QA, QA will run and say, okay, there's a difference between things. This is not the thing. That's where the integration testing comes in. There and the system testing further and further forward.
So that's what I mentioned in my.
Yes. Now, informally comes is, he does not take in responsibility for the testing being done by him. If there's anything, he'll notify, okay, Ushan, there's something, you do it.
Right.
It's not reported. It is never reported. Whatever testing is done by the development team or the team tech lead or the team lead within their development environment is not reported. It does not come to the QA's bug reports or anything saying we have run so many test cases, these are the bugs. It never gets reported. But when it comes to the technical QA file, they run, okay, I have run 10 test cases, there are 40 bugs. I have run 10 cases, there are 2 bugs. Major, minor, there's a scale, there's a metric system, that comes. But this never gets reported. That's why it's becoming informal, and yours is formal. There's a responsibility. When you report, okay, there's a bug. This one never gets tracked. That's why it's being informal.
I can agree with him. That's what I mentioned in my speech earlier. The responsibility of this testing. Testers have to take more responsibility in the testing part in the software development life cycle. So I mentioned earlier, 1995, it's my percentage. So developers also have a small responsibility in the testing. So by using this informal word, I want this, I don't know, formal.
Informal means it's important, but it's not anywhere recorded or anywhere it's being pushed forward for functional.
What my request is, please do unit testing as much as you can properly. So we can. So if we want to get the advantages of unit testing, developers need to do the unit testing properly.
One more thing, on the unit testing, we normally write functions to test other functions by giving inputs. But there are certain inputs that we can't give. For example, there's a function just a 0 file. Okay, so the inputs will be file name and the data. But there can be instances that the hard disk doesn't have space. For as a similar file name. So those kind of things cannot be tracked from the unit testing. Because code will give inputs, code will get the output. We can't track each and everything. So those things has to communicate somewhere.
So Amila, you have input to you asking question? Do you have any?
I have a different question.
You have a different question.
No, I'll ask a question on that point of view. If that's the case, if you know there's a potential that there's no space in the hard disk and it will throw a bug, is the development team covering that bug by writing a response or a 40, avoiding to go for a 404 page basically?
That we can write, but the unit test can't cover environmental changes.
Yes, but
There are several types of testing, right? Functional testing, non-functional testing. So in the non-functional testing, as I said earlier, there are performance testing, usability testing, security testing. Performance testing includes test testing, load testing. Insaf, can you please? Non-functional testing. Performance testing includes two types. Today I talked about only the functional testing. I didn't talk about non-functional testing. Non-functional testing include performance testing. Performance testing can be divided into two. One is load testing, the other one is test testing. And there are another type of non-functional testing, usability testing. This usability testing includes UI testing. UI testing is subset of usability testing. Right? So I can explain this also. So since the time is not enough, I can't